The temperature is dropping. Your fingers are becoming stiff. Your skin feels painful against the cold air. Every breath you take disappears into the darkness as a cloud of vapor. Now imagine this moment 100,000 years ago. No jacket, no blanket made from synthetic fibers, no heated room waiting for you. Just your body, a freezing landscape, and a long night ahead. Today, humans can survive some of the coldest places on Earth because we carry technology with us. A winter coat can trap heat, a house can block wind, a heater can turn a frozen room into a warm shelter within minutes. But for most of human history, none of these existed. For more than 90% of our species' existence, humans lived without modern clothing, without electricity, and without permanent homes. So how did ancient humans survive freezing environments? The surprising answer is that clothing was only one part of the solution. And before humans learned to protect their bodies from the cold, they first had to change the way they use their brains, their communities, and the world around them. Understanding how ancient humans stayed warm changes the way you see one of the most basic things about being human. Survival was never just about having a stronger body, it was about finding new ways to adapt. Around 300,000 years ago, early Homo sapiens were already living through major climate changes in Africa. But the biggest challenge came later. Around 100,000 to 20,000 years ago, Earth entered the coldest phases of the last ice age. Large parts of Europe and Asia experienced temperatures far lower than today. Glaciers expanded across northern regions, and animals like woolly mammoths, reindeer, and woolly rhinoceroses dominated the landscape. At this time, humans were not living in comfortable caves with fires burning constantly. They were moving through unpredictable environments where one mistake could mean death. But the human body had a hidden advantage. Your ancestors were already built for endurance. The human body is not naturally designed for extreme cold. Compared with animals like polar bears or Arctic foxes, humans have very little body hair and no thick layer of insulating fur. A polar bear can have thousands of hairs per square inch covering its body. Humans lost most of their body hair millions of years ago. This seems like a disadvantage. But around 2 million years ago, early humans developed another ability: sweating. Researchers believe increased sweating helped early humans survive hot environments while hunting over long distances. But this created a problem. A body designed to release heat efficiently in warm climates was now facing freezing environments. So humans needed another solution. It was fire. At Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, archaeologists discovered evidence of controlled fire use dating back around 1 million years. Inside the cave, researchers found burned plant material, ash layers, and heated stone fragments. Fire changed everything. It allowed humans to cook food, making calories easier to absorb. It provided light after sunset. And most importantly, it created a small area where humans could control temperature. A fire was not just warmth. It was a portable piece of another environment. Around 400,000 years ago, Neanderthals in Europe were also using fire regularly. At sites like La Côte d'Ivoire on the island of Jersey, archaeologists found evidence showing Neanderthals repeatedly used specific locations during Ice Age conditions. They were not simply surviving the cold, they were organizing their lives around it. But fire had limits. A fire only warms the space close to it. The moment you walk away, the cold returns. And during Ice Age winters, staying near a fire all day was impossible. Humans still had to hunt. They still had to travel. They still had to sleep. So another question remained. How did humans carry warmth with them when the fire could not follow? That is where the next major adaptation changed human survival forever. But it was not as simple as just putting on animal skins. The first human clothing was not designed like the clothes you wear today. There were no factories, no woven fabrics, no zippers, buttons, or insulated layers. Instead, early humans used what was already around them: animal hides. Around 30,000 years ago, during the Upper Paleolithic period, humans in Europe were making specialized tools for working animal skins. At sites across Europe, archaeologists have discovered bone needles dating back between 20,000 and 30,000 years. One important discovery came from the Kostenki archaeological site in Russia. Around 24,000 years ago, humans were living on the edge of the cold Eastern European plains. Researchers found evidence of carefully built shelters made from mammoth bones, along with tools that suggest humans were processing animal materials. These people were not simply wrapping themselves in random pieces of fur. They were engineering protection. A mammoth hide could block wind. A layer of animal skin could trap warm air close to the body. And a fitted piece of clothing could allow humans to move through freezing landscapes while carrying supplies and hunting. But there was something even more important than the material itself: the human brain. A wolf survives winter because its body is naturally prepared for it. A human survives winter because it can imagine a solution before the cold arrives. You can prepare, you can plan, you can create something that does not exist in nature. This ability separated humans from many other animals. Around 40,000 years ago, humans were producing increasingly complex tools for survival. At sites like Sunjir in Russia, archaeologists discovered evidence of advanced clothing technology. The site, dated to approximately 34,000 years ago, contained human burials with thousands of decorative ivory beads. The arrangement of these beads suggests they were attached to carefully made clothing. This means humans were not just wearing animal skins for warmth. They were creating fitted garments that required time, skill, and planning. But staying warm was never only about what covered your body. It was also about where you lived. Around 15,000 to 20,000 years ago, some Ice Age humans created shelters designed to protect against extreme conditions. At the Knursdorf site in Germany, researchers found evidence of structured living areas used by Upper Paleolithic hunter-gatherers. These were not permanent houses like modern homes. They were temporary survival systems. The location mattered. The shape mattered. The materials mattered. A shelter placed incorrectly could expose a group to deadly wind. A shelter built near resources could mean survival. Ancient humans were constantly reading the environment. They looked at the landscape and asked questions without words. Where does the wind come from? Where will animals travel? Where can fire burn safely? Where can a group stay warm through the night? But there was another problem. Even with fire, clothing, and shelters, one human body still loses heat quickly, especially during sleep. When you sleep, your body temperature naturally drops. Modern humans solve this with heated rooms, thick mattresses, and insulated blankets. Ancient humans had different solutions. They used bodies. Human groups slept close together. This was not just social behavior. It was survival. A group of people sharing warmth creates a larger heat source than one person alone. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies have observed similar patterns of shared sleeping spaces. These behaviors provide clues about how earlier humans may have survived cold nights. The individual was vulnerable. The group was a technology. But even this was not enough, because Ice Age environments created another challenge. The cold was not the only enemy. Food became harder to find. And without enough energy, even the best clothing could not save you. A human body needs calories to create heat. During extreme winters, survival depended on finding enough food to power the furnace inside your own body. And this is where ancient humans developed one of their most surprising cold weather strategies. They did not just fight the environment. They learned how to use it. But the evidence reveals something stranger about how far humans were willing to adapt. During the Ice Age, staying warm was not only about stopping heat from leaving your body. It was also about creating enough energy to produce heat in the first place. Your body is constantly burning fuel. When temperatures drop, that fuel requirement increases. A person exposed to freezing conditions can burn thousands of extra calories each day just to maintain body temperature. For Ice Age humans, food was not simply nutrition. It was insulation from the inside. Around 40,000 years ago, groups living across Europe depended heavily on large animals that could provide enormous amounts of energy. At sites like Dolní Věstonice in the Czech Republic, archaeologists discovered evidence of mammoth hunting and processing. The site dates back approximately 29,000 years. Researchers found animal bones, hearths, tools, and evidence that humans were using large mammals, not only for meat, but also for materials. A single mammoth could provide thousands of kilograms of resources. Meat for calories, bones for tools and structures, fat for energy, skin for protection. Every part had a purpose. The animal was not just food. It was a survival system. But there was another advantage humans had that many cold-adapted animals did not. Knowledge passed between generations. A young human did not need to personally experience every mistake. They could learn from someone else. They could learn where to find shelter, which plants could be used, how to prepare hides, how to control fire, how to survive a winter that they had never faced before. This ability transformed human evolution. Around 300,000 years ago, Homo sapiens began developing increasingly complex cultural behaviors. At archaeological sites in Africa and the Middle East, researchers have found evidence of advanced tools, symbolic objects, and organized living patterns. Survival was no longer controlled only by biology. It was controlled by information. A fox survives because it is born with fur. Humans survive because they can create fur. They can create fire. They can create shelter. They can create knowledge. But there is still one mystery. When did humans actually begin wearing clothing? The answer is difficult because clothing rarely survives for thousands of years. Animal skins decay. Plant fibers disappear. Unlike stone tools, clothing usually leaves almost no direct evidence. So researchers have looked for indirect clues. One important clue comes from genetics. In 2003, researchers Mark Stoneking and colleagues studied human body lice. They found that clothing lice separated from head lice roughly 83,000 to 170,000 years ago. This suggests humans may have started wearing clothing during this period. The exact date remains debated, but the evidence shows something important. Clothing appeared long before modern civilization, long before cities, long before written history. It was a survival invention created by humans facing a planet that was changing around them. The first jacket was not made for style. The first shelter was not made for comfort. The first fire was not made for entertainment. These were solutions created when the human body reached its limits. Today, you rarely notice the systems protecting you from the cold, the walls around you, the fabric covering your skin, the heat flowing through your home. But every one of these ideas began with a much older problem. A human standing in the dark, feeling the temperature drop, trying to survive until morning. The cold did not make humans powerful because we were naturally prepared for it. The cold made humans powerful because we learned to create what nature never gave us.